What's up guys, GRC here, and today we'll be taking a look at the FiFine M9 wireless lavalier microphone. At the time of this video, the whole kit is selling for just $65 on Amazon right now. When you factor in everything you get for that price, I gotta say it sounds pretty enticing, but the real question is, can it deliver? And that's what we're gonna find out today. Now before we get into setup and sound quality, I want to do a quick unboxing just to show you what you guys will be getting because there's quite a few items, at least more than I would expect for under $70. You get a user's guide, which includes quite a few visual diagrams, which I always appreciate. You get this nice hard shell case, which everything is neatly packed in. Inside that case, you'll find another case, which houses both microphones and the wireless receiver. This case is actually pretty cool because it serves multiple functions. The most obvious, of course, is as a protective measurement, but it also has a USB-C port in the rear, so you can charge all three devices at the same time. Not only that, but the case itself even has a built-in 1200 milliamp hour battery, so you can charge all three devices without even being plugged in. It essentially acts as a backup battery. Those four white lights on the front act as the shell's battery indicator. Finishing up the unboxing, you also get two furry windscreens for the mics, one USB-A to USB-C charging cable, and three different audio cables to connect the receiver to either your DSLR or mirrorless camera or your smartphone. I really like that they include two different phone cables in case yours does not have a 3.5mm audio jack. I also love that everything is properly labeled. It's especially helpful if you're like me and you've never owned a wireless lav mic before. Now, the devices themselves are small and fairly simple. The wireless receiver has a power button, two buttons to change audio levels on the two mics, a USB-C port on the bottom, a mode switch, and a pairing button, and a 3.5mm jack to connect the camera with. The mode switch button is for recording in either mono or stereo. I think you would only really benefit from using stereo if you're recording both mics at the same time. On the top, you have LED indicators to let you know what the status of your settings are. There's also this nice handy clip on the back that will slide right into any hot shoe. Moving on to the mic itself, it has a power button on one side, a USB-C port on the bottom, and a noise cancellation button and LED indicator, along with a pairing button. Towards the top, you have two LED indicators, one for battery life and the other for working status. And on the back, you get the same exact size clamp found on the receiver, meaning this will also slide right into any hot shoe. This is for attaching to your talent or wherever you want to record audio. Setup was extremely easy. Basically, all you have to do is turn the receiver and mic on, plug in the receiver to your video recording device, and hit the pairing button on both devices. The only part I found even remotely difficult was putting the furry windscreen on. It's also worth noting that the charging case will not close with the windscreen on, but it will still fit into the slot and charge just fine. You just can't close the lid. Moving on to the most important component, sound quality. Now, interestingly, in the manual, it does say when using DSLR cameras to record audio with the M9, set the in-camera volume to the minimum. I assume when they say DSLR, this also applies to mirrorless cameras, which is what I almost always record video on. Currently, it's a Sony FX3. Now, my camera lets me set the recording volume ranging from 0 to 31, so I wanted to see for myself what yielded the best sounding audio. Have a listen. We learn more from people who challenge our thought process than those who affirm our conclusions. Strong leaders engage their critics and make themselves stronger. Weak leaders silence their critics and make themselves weaker. This reaction isn't limited to people in power. Although we might be on board with the principle, in practice, we often miss out on the value of a challenge network. We learn more from people who challenge our thought process than those who affirm our conclusions. Strong leaders engage their critics and make themselves stronger. Weak leaders silence their critics and make themselves weaker. This reaction isn't limited to people in power. Although we might be on board with the principle, In practice, we often miss out on the value of a challenge network. We learn more from people who challenge our thought process than those who affirm our conclusions. Strong leaders engage their critics and make themselves stronger. Weak leaders silence their critics and make themselves weaker. This reaction isn't limited to people in power. Although we might be on board with the principle, in practice, we often miss out on the value of a challenge network. Now, before I give my opinion, which setup sounded the best to you guys? Let me know in the comments below. To my ears, setup 3 actually sounded the best, but only by a little. It's not an earth-shattering difference, but I think it does clearly sound the best. At least it became obvious to me after listening to each sample about 3 times with a solid pair of headphones. So, despite what the manual says, if you're recording with a mirrorless camera, I would leave the audio in camera set right in the middle, and set audio on the lav mic to its lowest setting of 1 out of 3. But this could also vary depending on the camera, so don't be afraid to play around with it. Overall, I thought the sound quality was good, not great. Things sounded a bit flatter and less detailed than I'm used to, but being honest here, this is also the first lav mic I've ever reviewed. So all I really have to compare it to is much larger USB cardioid condenser mics. I think when you factor in the size of each device, you realize it's not really a fair comparison. But let me know what you guys think of the audio quality. If you want more sound samples of the M9, click the link in the top right. I recorded that entire video using the FiFine M9 wireless lav mic. This next test I want to play for you is to see how good the noise cancellation is. I am now recording on the M9 lav mic with the volume set to 1 out of 3, and on the FX3, the volume, the in-camera audio is set to 15 out of a max of 31. I also have a speaker directly underneath the camera, and that's to sort of simulate background noise so we can test out the noise canceling. So I'm going to read a passage with noise canceling off with the music on, and then I'm going to turn noise canceling on, and we can see how much of a difference that makes. A deep sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need of all people. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, be loved, and to belong. When those needs are not met, we don't function as we were meant to. We break, we fall apart, we numb, we ache, we hurt others, we get sick. Okay, so now I'm going to turn noise cancellation on the mic, and we'll see what difference that makes. I'm going to read that same passage again. Music is at the same level. A deep sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need of all people. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, be loved, and to belong. When those needs are not met, we don't function as we are meant to. We break, we fall apart, we numb, we ache, we hurt others, we get sick. Again, this is with the music playing and noise cancellation on, and I'm going to turn it off right now. Noise cancellation is off. Noise cancellation on. While the noise cancellation does work and is effective, it degrades the overall audio quality too much for it to be a real viable option in my opinion. It simply makes my voice sound too robotic. I also tested the microphone's range, which in the manual is stated to be up to 50 meters or about 164 feet in the line of sight. I tested this to be fully functional to around 37 meters or 120 feet, and I have to say I didn't really notice any drop or loss in audio quality. I'm not sure why you would need or want to record someone from that far away, but if you need it, the range is there. And finally, before I give my conclusion, I wanted to briefly touch on battery life. Now, each lav mic has a 150 milliamp hour battery rated for 6 hours of operating time. The receiver has a 280 milliamp hour battery rated for double that of 12 hours of operating time. I was most concerned about the seemingly small 150 milliamp hour battery in the mics themselves, but I'm happy to report FiFine's numbers on this appear to be accurate. I got just over 6 hours of runtime from a full charge with a single lav mic. I also noticed that once the power indicator light started flashing red, I got about 20 more minutes of use out of the battery. An important question I always like to ask during my reviews is, who is this product for? I see this as an entry-level product for people just starting out wanting to create content. If you're more than just a part-time YouTuber, TikToker, whatever, and can afford it, I would probably spend a bit more to get a bit more. But that's just me. The M9 is still a great option for those on a budget who don't necessarily want to commit the funds to a hobby or even profession they're still unsure about. Or if premium audio quality isn't necessarily a top priority for you, the M9 will still get the job done at what I think is a very fair and reasonable price. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for this video. As always, I hope you found it helpful. I'm not going to tell you to subscribe because I've been so inconsistent posting new content lately. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below and I'll do my best to get back to you. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.